The night was black and trembling. Above the Sierra Nevada, a streak of violet light tore the clouds apart, silent, almost graceful, before a shockwave rippled through the valley below. Trees shuddered. Birds burst from their nests in panicked spirals. Miles away, a young human named Evan Locke looked up from his worn-out tent, heart pounding. He'd come out here to forget. Forget the noise, the deaths, the war he never got to fight. The mountains were quiet, or had been, until the sky itself split open. When the second rumble came, he grabbed his flashlight and the old rifle he never used, and began to climb toward the thin column of smoke twisting beyond the ridge. Beginning the crash. The crater wasn't huge, but it still looked wrong. Metallic fragments half buried in the soil, flickering with faint blue light. The air reeked of ozone and burned grass. At first, Evan thought it was a meteorite. Then it moved. A small, curved door on the shattered pod hissed open. Out of it stumbled someone on trembling legs. She was barely 5 feet tall, with pale silver skin and white hair that shimmered faintly in the moonlight. Her eyes were wide, slit-pupilled like a cat's, glowing faintly turquoise. Evan froze. She wasn't human. The girl looked around wildly, clutching her arm. It was bleeding a strange, dark blue liquid. When she saw him, she tried to raise a small metallic device. It sputtered, blinked red, and died. She made a sound, not words, just fear. Evan slowly lowered his rifle. "It's okay," he said, voice trembling. "You're hurt." She swayed, eyes dulling, and collapsed before she could reply. Middle, the stranger in his cabin. By morning, Evan had carried her to his cabin, cleaned the wound, and wrapped it with gauze. He wasn't sure what drove him: curiosity, pity, or the aching loneliness that had followed him since leaving the army. When she woke, she flinched at the sight of him, pressing back against the wall. But as the hours passed, she began to understand. She could mimic his gestures, study his tone, and soon a few words formed, rough, mechanical echoes learned through repetition. "Ivan," she said one evening, pointing at him. Then, hand on her chest, "Sarah." He smiled. "Sarah." Days turned to a week. Sarah was cautious but observant. She studied his tools, his fire, the books scattered on the floor. She learned faster than anyone he'd ever met. One night, a storm rolled in. Thunder shook the cabin, and she crouched near the window, trembling at each flash. Evan wrapped a blanket around her shoulders and said softly, "You're safe here." She turned to him, eyes wide. "Safe, humankind." He laughed gently. "Not always. Conflict, the world beyond." When Evan drove down to town for supplies, he noticed the military drones buzzing overhead. A local radio broadcast spoke of an unidentified object entering Earth's atmosphere and possible biohazard zones. They were searching. That night, he found Sarah outside, staring at the stars. Her translator had begun working again, flickering with green light. "They are coming," she said softly. "My kind, not to rescue, to erase evidence." Evan's stomach tightened. "Erased you, and all that saw me. It is rule." He clenched his fists. "You didn't do anything wrong." "To them, mistake equals contamination," she said. "To humans, I am danger." He looked at her, the way she watched the sky, fear hidden behind strength, and felt something shift inside him. "Then we'll hide," he said. "Together." Middle, the flight. For 3 days, they moved through forests and canyons, avoiding drones that combed the area. Sarah's wounds healed unnaturally fast, but her energy was fading. She hadn't eaten in days. Evan shared what he had, even his last canteen of water. She hesitated, eyes flickering. You give all. He nodded. You need it more. Something in her expression softened. She touched his hand gently. You different, not hostile. Why? Because once someone showed me kindness when I didn't deserve it, he said quietly. Maybe it's my turn. That night, she rested her head on his shoulder beneath the stars. The sky seemed peaceful again for a while. Climax, the arrival. The ship came on the fourth day, massive, triangular, blotting out the sun. Its hum vibrated through the ground. Syrah's translator sparked violently. They found me. Soldiers in black armor descended from the craft. Evan aimed his rifle. Pointless, he knew, but instinct drove him. Stay behind me, he whispered. A voice boomed through a speaker, cold and precise. Unit Syrah, 43, you violated isolation protocol. Step forward. She shook her head. They will kill you, Evan. He tightened his grip. Then they'll have to try. The alien commander raised his hand. A pulse weapon glowed. Syrah shouted something in her language, throwing herself in front of Evan. A wave of blue light rippled out from her, raw energy that tore the dust into a glowing storm. The aliens hesitated. Unauthorized power discharge detected. Syrah's voice was breaking. Evan, run. I'm not leaving you. She turned, tears mixing with the alien blood on her cheek. If you stay, they erase everything, even your world's memory of this. And then she did something neither of them expected. She placed the translator in his hand and stepped forward, ending the gift of memory. The sky erupted with light. When it faded, the ship was gone. The valley was silent again. Only a faint shimmer lingered where she'd stood, and the translator in Evan's palm, now glowing softly. He waited for days, hoping she'd return. But she never did. Months later, when scientists and soldiers finally came to comb the crash site, they found nothing. No metal, no alien traces, nothing but scorched earth. But at night, when Evan sat outside his rebuilt cabin, he could still hear the faint hum from the translator. A projection would flicker briefly, Syrah's voice, repeating a single phrase. Safe humankind. He smiled through the ache. You too, Syrah. You too. And far above Earth, beyond the reach of any scanner, a small vessel drifted quietly between the stars, its lone occupant staring down at the blue planet, whispering the same words she'd learned from him. Humankind.